Hello everyone, this is Wes James here, and today I'm bringing you another awesome Final Cut Pro effect. In today's tutorial, we're going to construct an iPhone scroll animation using Photoshop layers, third-party plugins, and keyframes. Here's what the final result looks like. Before we begin, please download the iPhone Toolkit that I provided to follow along. It contains the GUI elements as well as the finger PSD. Also, the third-party filters I'll be using today are Digital Heaven's DHBox, Sugar Effects Design Tools Player Preview, and FX Factory Pro's Rounded Corners. You can download trials of these plugins from the links I provided below the video. These filters aided me in the creation of this effect and can help you out as well. Let's get started. First, import the iPhone Toolkit into your project browser. Double-click the iPhone GUI sequence to view the layers. The original image on track 1 has been disabled and as well as its visibility. If you want to, you can delete it. Select the bottom, side 1, and side 2 layers and move them up one track by pressing Option Up arrow. Change the video track panel from track 1 to track 2. Go to the Generators tab in your viewer window. Select Matte, Color Solid. Change its duration to 4 seconds, and change the color in the Controls tab to black. Press F10 or the red button in your canvas window to perform an overwrite edit onto track 2. Double-click the bottom layer to bring it into the viewer. Go to the Motion tab. Change the scale from 100 to 107.4 and the Y position to 159. Hold on to the distort parameter and change the aspect ratio from 0 to negative 14.69. Double-click the side 2 layer to bring it into the viewer. Adjust the scale to 107.3 and the X position to negative 0.23 and the Y position to negative 48.9. Twirl on the distort parameter and change the aspect ratio to negative 19.56. Right-click and select Copy. Select the side 1 layer and hit Option V to paste attributes, and paste the attributes of Basic Motion and Distort, and hit OK. Nest side 1 and side 2 into their own individual sequences by pressing Option C. Select the two nested sequences. Go to your Effects drop-down menu. Go to Video Filters, Digital Heaven, DHBox, and apply it to the two clips. Option double-click side 2. Go to the Filters tab to view the DHBox filter. Set a keyframe for the X position in the target area at 1 second. Change the value to 79. Move the playhead 8 frames and change the value to 46. Move the playhead 5 frames and change the value to 31. Move the playhead 6 frames and change the value to 13. And finally, move the playhead 3 frames and change the value to 0. Option double-click side 1 to bring it into the viewer, and go to the Filters tab. Set a keyframe for the X position in the target area at 1 frame 8 seconds, or the second keyframe on the side 2. And leave the value at 0. Move the play at 5 frames, and change the value to negative 18. Move the play at about 6 frames, and change the value to negative 37. Move the playhead 3 frames and change the value to -58. If you need to preview this without rendering, you can hit Option / or you can go to your Tools panel, select Quick View, hit the keyboard shortcut Option 8, and you can do a RAM preview by setting an in and out here, or have a range for at least 2 to 10 seconds, and you can preview it at full resolution, half resolution, or quarter resolution. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring our iPhone GUI sequence into an SD or an HD sequence. For mine, I put it into an SD sequence, but this works in HD as well. So let's bring our iPhone GUI sequence into an SD sequence right now. Let's put it on track 1. Next thing you want to do is go to your effects browser. Scroll down to Sugar Effects, Toolbox, and select Player Preview and apply it to the GUI sequence. Option double click to bring it into the viewer. Change the select player to iPhone vertical. Change the adjust fitting to 0.51. Next, go to your effects browser, scroll up to FX Factory Distort, and select Rounded Corners and apply it to the GUI sequence in your timeline. Let's make a few changes here. Change the crop width to separate margins. And set the margins to the following. For margin top, 0.03. For margin left, 0.31. For margin bottom, 0.03. And for margin right, 0.3. Change the corner units from pixels to relative to frame size. Change the radius from 0.1 to 0.16, and change the softness from 0.1 to 0.03. Thanks to this filter, you were able to separate the iPhone overlay from its background. Go to the project browser and select the finger PSD. Double-click it to bring it into the viewer. Press F12 to superimpose it onto track 2. Double-click to bring it into the viewer. Go to the Motion tab. Let's start animating the hand to coincide with our scroll animation. Move the playhead 5 frames from its endpoint and set a keyframe for the center value. Change the X and Y values to 71.99 and 423.76. Move the playhead 9 frames and change the value on the Y position from 423.76 to 119.76. Move the playhead 1 second and set a keyframe there and leave the current center values at its current position. Move the playhead 4 frames and set a keyframe there and change the X position from 71.99 to -23.5. Move the playhead 15 frames and set another keyframe and leave the value at its current position. Next thing you want to do is double click the iPhone GUI sequence in your timeline. Option double click side 1 to bring it into the viewer. Activate the motion blur option and twirl it down. Change the blur from 500 to 50 and the samples from 4 to 8. Right click and select copy. Select side 2 and press Option V to paste attributes and paste the motion blur. Go back to your main sequence. The next thing you want to do is add a motion graphics background. I have a motion graphics background from videoblocks.com in my project browser. In the timeline, select the finger PSD in the iPhone GUI and hit the keyboard shortcut Option up arrow to move it 1 track up. Double click your motion graphics background in your project browser. Set the duration from its original to 4 seconds. And hit the keyboard shortcut F10 to overwrite. Option R to render all, and then preview the effect in your timeline. After you render the effect, you can set an in and out and define a range of how long you want the playhead to go, and hit the keyboard shortcut Shift and /. You have completely performed an iPhone scroll animation inside of Final Cut Pro using Photoshop and third-party filters from FX Factory Pro in Digital Heaven. If you've seen in my previous tutorials, I provided links to countless third-party sites to equip your effects browser and take you to another level. This effect can have been achieved using nothing but Photoshop layers in the Motion tab, but I wanted to show you this option to provide everyone with an opportunity to check out some incredible plugins. Next week will be my 10th tutorial. I'll be planning on doing something slightly more advanced, but I can assure you it'll be very creative and useful for people who want to achieve a certain style. Also next week will be the NAB show and the FCP Super Meet up in Las Vegas. For those of you guys that are going, that's awesome. For those of us who weren't able to shell out the money to go out, you can always check it out on nabshow.com, and you can also download the app for your smartphone, NAB Show. Check it out, download it. It keeps you alert, it keeps you updated. And, there's a possibility of the new Final Cut Pro 8 being introduced at this meet, as Apple has gotten a lot of sponsors to withdraw their presentations from the Super Meet. So definitely on April 12th, be on the lookout for any big news from Apple. But until then, stay creative.